Welcome to Jerry Berry's Friend-Tastic Library. This is the YouTube channel where I talk about actual books, journal books, and people books. And today we're going to talk about actual books. I'm going to talk to you about something. What am I going to talk to you about? This happens a lot, actually. I'm going to talk to you about The Hate U Give, book versus movie. That's what it is. So, with The Hate U Give, I read that book back in February. I'll make sure I link my February reading wrap up in the description. Okay. So, it was one of the best books I've ever read. I gave it 5 stars, and I gave myself a lot of time before watching the movie because I need time to almost forget what happened in the book so that I don't sit there and pick apart every little detail of the movie as I'm watching it. And then after I watch the movie, I can kind of go back and revisit my notes from whenever I read the book. And then I can do a good breakdown. So the book I gave 5 stars. It evoked so much emotion. I was so nervous about watching the movie, yet so intrigued at the same time. Because I feel like movies are way more accessed than books. And I felt like this story needed to be heard and seen. So I really appreciated that they made a movie. But I was still nervous to watch it. It was very similar to the way I felt about The Help. And if you haven't watched that video, I'll link that as well, where I talked about The Help book versus movie. So, with all that said, this will have spoilers, but I don't feel like there's huge plot twists like in my 9 Perfect Strangers. Like 9 Perfect Strangers has a lot of surprises and plot twists, and I feel like The Hate U Give does not. So if you are okay, no, and I'm pretty sure the description of the book says what it's about. So I don't really know that I'd be spoiling anything more than what the movie or the book description would tell you. Yeah, so I'll say it like that. If you absolutely hate all spoilers of all kinds, pause this and go watch the movie at least. And then come back. If you don't really care too much about it and you've already seen trailers or descriptions or something like that, then you probably won't have anything spoiled for you, really. So, I'm excited about it. I think my computer just died. I should plug that in. Anyhow, so I never know whether to start with the book or the movie, but I think that I will start with the movie because I think I can talk about the book for a lot longer. Yeah. So the movie, I think I bought it. It was on Netflix for a while, I think, but then I think recently I bought it, maybe. I don't remember how I got it. Maybe it's on Hulu. I don't know. Either way, it's The Hate U Give. It's just the letter U. So the title is based off of a Tupac saying where he says thug life, and it means swear words are coming, right? So cover your kids' ears. He says that thug life stands for the hate you give little infants fucks everybody. So that quote is broken down many times within the book, and they even break it down a couple times in the movie. So I guess we'll start with casting. I thought the casting for the movie was amazing. I don't know how they found a person to play the main character Star so well. It was almost like the author had seen her in real life and described her in the book, rather than somebody reading the description and then finding her. And it's not like they really spent I feel like they didn't spend a lot of time describing her even in the book, but it was like they read my mind and saw the person I had pictured and made her a real person for the movie. It was amazing to me. I thought the casting was one of the best book to movie or show castings I've ever seen. It blew my mind. I believe in my February wrap up, I had mentioned that I wanted the dad to be old school Samuel Jackson vibes. I think that's who I said. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I should have reviewed that before I did this one. But either way, I feel like in my head I pictured him as young Samuel Jackson, as in Pulp Fiction age. And what's funny is the actor that they got, I feel like he carried that same aura as Pulp Fiction Samuel Jackson. So it actually worked out really good. The one weird casting that I did not super duper agree with was the Falcon from the Marvel Universe, whatever that guy's name is. He was there as King, and I didn't like that one. I feel like he's too much of a goody two shoes at this point because he is Falcon. And he's kind of like, I don't know, I guess in my brain, I pictured King being like this big, buff guy. And the actor for Falcon is not that guy. I'm not saying that he's bad or that he's bad looking or anything like that. He just didn't carry this like big thug aura to me. So that was probably the only one that I didn't like. I loved Khalil. I thought they picked the perfect guy for Khalil. His face and his smile was so charming. It was so heartbreaking. I get like emotional just thinking about it, but I thought he was a really good cast. Even the half sister was an excellent casting, and her brothers. I'm trying to think like who else in that movie was famous. I mean, her mom was really good, obviously. Yeah, I thought the cast was some of the best casting I've seen, especially for the main character. Oh my gosh, the bitchy white girl. She was perfect, dude. She was so one of my favorite things that I've learned through listening to audiobooks is that it is amazing and one of my favorite things ever to listen to a Black or African American narrator do a cliche white girl, like basic white girl voice. I'm obsessed with it. I feel like they do it so well and they hit the nail on the head every time. And whenever Bonnie Turpin did Haley's, was her name Haley? I'm pretty sure it was Haley. Haley's voice, it was like so perfect and I could picture her in my head so clearly. And like I had gone to high school with like those people, so I knew exactly who that character was. And they were so well developed. And I feel like she did the voice so well. And then the actor that played that bitchy little white girl was like perfect. She played it off so perfectly. She made you hate her so, so well. Yeah. As far as timeline goes, I feel like the timeline was pretty spot on, but of course the movie makes everything feel rushed because you're taking like, how long was this book? A 12-hour book. You're taking a 12-hour book and turning it into like a 2-hour movie. So of course everything feels rushed. In the movie, it was like, it happened. She went to the police. She went back to school. School protested. And then like the riots broke out and everything happened really, really fast. And I think in the book, it was like a 2 to 3 month span that was going on with all of this, which makes sense in real life because courts don't move that quickly in real life. They do move very slow. So that's why the timeline in the book, I think, felt more realistic than in the movie. But again, it's a movie. They have to they have to get the show on the road. We don't have time to waste here. We only have 2 hours. So I didn't mind that. I really don't think I have any complaints about the movie at all. I think that I was wishing that Star would have actually punched Haley in the movie, when in reality she just like scared her with her hairbrush. But I wish she really would have punched her like she did in the book, because that was like very good for the reader. The movie left out like a whole ass character that was pretty cool in the book, and it was like a kid that was working for King, and Star's dad kind of took him under his wing to try to get him out of that circle of drug dealing and stuff. And so in the movie, if you've seen it or whenever you watch it, in the movie, they get a call that Seven has been beat up at, what's her name? Aisha's house, his mom, Aisha's house. And they go and they save him, and Aisha has to distract King while they get Seven out of the house. So in the book, that's like a whole nother character. His name is escaping me, but it's a kid that they know that is just dealing drugs with King on the streets, and he's pretty young, and so he goes to Star's dad to kind of clean his act up, and that's actually the kid that gets beaten up by King, and they have to go save. But I understand, again, whenever you're turning 12 hours into 2 hours, I don't nitpick that stuff too much. That character really didn't move the story along. So I get why they left it out. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. Her boyfriend Chris is Archie from Riverdale. Ha! Whenever I saw that, I like died of laughter, and it took me a long time to stop calling him Archie and to consider him Chris, her boyfriend. So it's not that casting was bad, but I couldn't take him seriously. I was like, Archie, stop it. Almost the whole time. Um, but I thought he did good. I thought he was a good portrayal of like a classic white boy. He was super. I mean, he's super cute, obviously. So wait, is he old enough for me to say that? I think he's over 18. I hope he's over 18. Anyways, he's cute. This is where I'm at now as a 30-year-old. I had to like Google if Tom Holland was like overage after the first Spider-Man because I had feelings. So yeah. So I thought Archie was cool. As Chris, her boyfriend. I thought he did a really good job. The one thing that I thought was unfortunate was in the movie, in the book, he plays a much bigger role in her life. And he's so much more proactive about the whole Khalil situation than he is in the movie. In the movie, he kind of just leaves and takes Kenya and her sister home and away from the situation. But in the book, he's like there. He's in it. He's in the streets for the riots. Yeah. So I guess like I didn't start by explaining the premise of this book and movie. Maybe I should have started that way. Sorry, I just got right into it because I was really excited about it. But the whole premise is very early in the movie. Basically starts where you meet this teenage girl who is, I believe she's 16. I want to say she's 15, 16, somewhere in there. And she lives in a very rough neighborhood. And her parents send her to a private school that's definitely upper class, and she's like one of 2 or 3 black kids in the whole school. And her brother Seven is her half brother Seven is the other one of the other black people. Everyone else is very white, and she has to play 2 different roles in her life. One as like the girl from the streets whose dad used to be a drug lord and now just lives a normal life and owns a grocery store. But then she also has to play like a preppy version of herself that's like very calm, cool, and collected, so that the white people at the upper class school don't treat her differently. And then she ends up going to a party in her hometown, and a shooting breaks out, and her childhood friend Khalil, who is rumored as selling drugs, or maybe thinking about selling drugs, is at the party, and he takes her home. And on the way home, they get stopped by a police officer, and the police officer shoots him and kills him right in front of her. And then she has to testify, but her parents don't. She doesn't have to, but they want her to testify so they can get the whole story. Her parents don't want her to testify because then she won't be safe. They have to worry about her snitching and being a public figure and people, threatening her in any way. And so then she's torn on the inside. She's like, no, I need to be safe. I've learned my whole life from my dad being a drug lord that you can't snitch or talk to the cops. But at the same time, I need to speak up for my friend because this has happened way too many times. So she has a lot of internal struggle. And it's so super sad. Like 35, I think it's at like 35 minutes into the audiobook is whenever the shooting happens. And it's amazing at how quickly the writing captivates you and pulls you into the story so that you like truly feel every emotion as the shooting is happening. And in the movie, I think it happens within like the first 5 minutes, maybe. One big difference between the book and the movie is that in the movie they kiss. Her and Khalil kiss. In the book, I'm 99.8% sure that doesn't happen. It's been a while since I've read it, but I'm pretty sure her and Khalil don't kiss the night he gets shot. I think they put that in the movie to kind of play on your heartstrings, which works really well. Whenever I watched the movie, I forgot how emotional the story is. And it like brought it all back up. I think what made it so emotional too was that this was published in 2017. And in 2020, we saw a lot of riots for the Black Lives Matter movement. And the stuff that they explained, that the author explains in the book, and the way they portray it in the movie are just so accurate to what we saw in 2020. So it was like really foreshadowing, I guess, in my opinion. And I think it really helps bring all of those bad things to the forefront and to the attention of the viewer or the reader. Yeah, it's just a really hard emotional story. And it really shows how the news and the media twist it in a way to make the person that got shot look bad. Yeah, I think both the book and the movie did a really, really good job of putting it into perspective. And I think everyone needs to read it. Like, at this point, I almost feel like it should be mandatory for high schoolers to read this book. I don't know. But yeah. One of the things that I loved in the book, and they kind of touched on it in the movie, but in a different way. So I'll just do the movie first. In the movie, her uncle Carlos, her mom's brother, is I believe he's considered an investigator. I don't think he's an actual cop, as you would see like in a cop car pulling people over. But he knows what it's like being out there. And in the movie, they had him explain what it's like being a cop, which I enjoyed because he did touch on the experiences that cops have and the scariness of their job. But then Star brings up, like, well, what if Khalil was a white guy in a suit? Would you have stopped to ask a question, or would you have just shot him? And the uncle's like, I probably would have stopped to ask more questions. And she's like, do you see the problem then? And in the book, what happens is that since there's more time to develop Carlos more as a person, in the book, what happens is Carlos is very much on the police officer's side. Even though he is a person of color, he's like, no, our job is hard. You don't understand our job. We kill each other within our race more than the cops are killing us. He says all this stuff in the book. And his sister, which is Star's mom and Star's dad and her, they all start to have friction with him. And then he hears a coworker say something nasty about the incident, in a sense of like, I think they say something about like, well, at least it's one less drug dealer on the street or something like that. And so he ends up punching his coworker and getting suspended for a while from the job until the case is over, basically. And then he starts to see things in a new light, and we get to see him grow in the book and really view the big picture of what happened and why it happened and how messed up the system can be. And so he ends up kind of changing sides, and he apologizes to Star in the book. And one of the quotes that I wrote down, and I think I talked about this book a lot in my February wrap up. So if you watched that, this is probably sounding redundant, but the quote that he said in the book that I wrote down was that he said, Khalil was more than any bad decision he made. I hate that I let myself fall into that mindset of trying to rationalize his death. And at the end of the day, you don't kill someone for opening a car door. If you do, you shouldn't be a cop. And I love that quote so much still to this day. Just boiling a person down to their one bad mistake and then judging them for it is the worst thing you can do. And then where he says that he let himself get into the mindset of rationalizing his death, which the book and the movie both do such a good job at showing that whenever things like this happen, we have to rationalize it. And unfortunately, sometimes that means that we have to rationalize it by pointing fingers and saying, well, that person was a bad person, so maybe it's not so bad that they died. And that should never happen. It doesn't matter if they're brown, green, purple, or pink. I just don't think that we should ever try to rationalize it in our heads by saying that they were a bad person or that they did a bad thing, because we all do bad things. Like every person ever that has ever existed has done a bad thing. So to rationalize their death and being okay because they did a bad thing is just so asinine and unnecessary. So that's why I loved that whole part of the book. And then if you listen to the book all the way to the very, very end, just to like really get one last tear out of you, the the main character, lists all of these people that have had the same situation done to them, where there has been some sort of person in power that has killed them and not been penalized for it, or another person has killed them and the law did nothing because the law rationalized that their death was not worth penalizing the person that killed them. So she lists people. The people she lists is Oscar Grant, Mayana Stanley Jones, Trayvon Martin, Rakia Boyd, Michael Brown, Eric Garner. I think that's what it says. I can't read my own handwriting. Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, John Crawford, Azelle Ford, Sandra Bland, Alton Sterling, Filato Castile, and then Emmett Till. And Emmett Till was a boy. She says in the book something like, even the boy they beat to death back in the 50s so that you couldn't even recognize who he was. And that was Emmett Till. So, yeah, it really gets you at the end like that. And I believe at the end of the movie, during the credits, they even shout out people that have, some of these people at the end. If I remember correctly, I'd have to watch it again. But yes. So my review is 10 out of 10 for both book and movie. And I think the movie did a really, really, really good job. But I did notice during the credits, I believe Angie Thomas was a producer. I want to say that she was a producer. She definitely had some say in the movie, and I think that's why they did such a good job with it. Angie Thomas is the author. Probably should have started with that. So, yeah. And this is listed as a YA novel. It's definitely listed as young adult. In the book, the only talk of sex is that her boyfriend Chris had a condom in his wallet, and that she wasn't ready for that yet. And then there are swear words in the book, but it's not overly done. I've definitely read YAs where it feels like a teenager is trying to swear too much. This isn't like that at all. So I definitely think it's young adult appropriate. But now that I say that, young adult I think is considered 12 or 13 and up. I don't think you should give this book to a 12 or 13-year-old with no description or conversation. I think that if you... No, well, yeah, now that I say that, I think if you give it to any young adult, as in 12 to 18, and you are their parent or guardian, you should have a conversation with them before, during, and after. Because it's heavy. It's a heavy topic. Is it important? Absolutely. No matter who you are, it's an important book to read. But I think you shouldn't just give it to them with like blind faith. I think that they need prepped and need to have a conversation before, during, and after to deal with it, because it's very emotional and it's very yeah. I would, especially for my son, because he's such like he feels all his feelings really big. I think it would really crush him. So even when he's 7 right now, but even when he gets to be in high school, I think it would really hurt him. And I would probably need to like talk him through it and talk with him about it and let him get those emotions out, and just make sure that they realize that life means so much more than this, and staying aware and active helps decrease these things from happening in the real world. So that's why, yeah, that's how I would attack that. I could go on and on about this forever, but I know that we're getting quite a long time. So 10 out of 10, book and movie. They are really, really good. Bring your tissues, chocolate, ice cream, whatever you need to cope, fuzzy blankets, maybe a cat or a dog, because you'll need it, whether it's the book, the audiobook, or the movie. Yeah. If you watched the movie, I definitely recommend reading the book. If you've only read the book, I definitely recommend the movie. Yeah, all of it. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree on anything that I've said. I love discussing things with people. I love making space for people. I love connecting with people. I will always shed love and light. I will not argue or say hateful things. I just won't respond to to those types of comments, but I'm always here to discuss and love you. So, okay, bye.